Okay, let's call the meeting to order. The meeting is in compliance with the open meeting law.
We
Would
need
you
to
do the
take
roll call?
Point of order.
Maring,
Here.
Dashler is excused. Boer,
Here.
Lautenbach is excused. Swedberg,
Here.
Meverden,
Here.
Havoc,
Here.
Schmidt.
Here.
Okay, and the meeting isn't in compliance with the open meeting law. Could I get approval of the agenda as submitted?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes to the meeting from September 20th and October 4th. Could I get a motion for that?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Okay, consideration of the bills and conference attendance. Could I get a motion for those
Well,
payments?
Let's take a look at, Kathy, what did you have somebody lose a book from Appleton?
One of our patrons, yes.
Okay,
But when they just hand us over cash, we have to do an invoice, and we'll send checks.
Okay, all right.
Can't send-
So, we're whole,
We're good, yeah.
and they pay Appleton, or we pay Appleton.
They
Okay,
paid us, we paid out.
fabulous, okay.
Okay.
And we're, and Casey, fuel tanks are full.
And the Reno one? Probably one more bill that'll be coming from the marina yet.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay, any other questions regarding the bills? If not, could I get a motion to approve the payment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, would you do a roll call on that, Aaron?
Yep, 1 second. Alright, so I have a motion by Pavic and a second by, Swedberg. Roll call Meverden,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Maring,
Yes.
Boer,
Yes.
Pavic,
Yes.
Swedberg. Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. And there is no conference attendance that we have to worry about?
Not at
Okay.
this time.
Okay, then public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to discuss anything? Is there anyone from the public? One last chance, anyone from the public? If not, then we are moving on to old business, the Public Safety Facility Building. Matt, are you taking that one, or Scott? or-
Go for it.
Don't matter to me. I'll do it as best as I can.
Okay,
So we've had several meetings as an ad hoc committee, and working with Jim from Bayland, we were able to get a finalized phased approach, first phase building back. Numbers came in. There was several back and forth between the ad hoc committee and Bayland, but the finalized numbers came in a little bit higher than what we were intending. I believe it was 3.7. It was like 3.75, between 3.7 and 3.8 million dollars. We were hoping to have it down in that lower $3 million range. The suggestion coming out of that ad hoc committee was like to come to the finance and personnel with the ask that we move forward with doing some advisory with topos, topography, and studies that need to be done up at the property regardless, and whether this was going to be going to referendum or other funding. Those topographies and studies are going to be needed regardless, and I believe they're good for, what was it, 3 years?
3 years.
3 years. So the monetary ask was it 40,000?
Yes.
Is that the estimate?
Yes.
Is that we would be asking for 40,000 to move forward? And the reason that we want to do that is in order to get a cost of materials and everything are going to be coming down, right? The inflation is going to be coming down. There's a very good chance, and we were able through discussion at the committee level, we were able to, we know that we can shave at least $200,000. It's going to be very, very close to where we wanted it or needed it to be. In order to get any type of definitive hard number back from a general, we need to have this, we need to have the pre-work done. So Not sure if I hit everything on that, but
I think.
pretty high overview.
Yep, yep, so what we would do, per the council's move tonight, right, at finance and personnel, we would move this to, the full council for November. In the meantime, then I would get a price from our engineering firm, a hard number, that we would have a contract, set up for the full council to adopt in November, if this is the direction that the council feels to go.
And in order to get any type of definitive hard numbers from the general contractors, we need to have it done. And there was a lot of discussion about that at the subcommittee meeting, is that, 40 grand's a lot of money to spend. Well, we know that it needs to be done, whether it's done via referendum this year, next year, the year after, it's gotta be done regardless, and that stays with the property, so it's not as if we are wasting the money. But in order to get that definitive number back from the general contractors, this is the next step in the progress that we need to do. So,
Scott, what did we cut to go from, what was it, 5 million or whatever, down to 3.75?
footprint of the building, this is a phased approach in which the police department is, not included in the facility. There was, I think, some square footage removed bays maybe, there was, some moving with the mezzanine, the structure itself, the roof.
I mean, are we gonna see this before we vote on anything? As a council, this revised 3.7 plan?
As far as the actual presentation, I don't see a reason why not. I
We could
apologize.
Definitely get that to everybody.
It'd be nice to see what I'm voting on, yeah.
Regardless if it's this building or not, that this is just the next step, and I think that that's something that we can have for the next, some hard copies for the next meeting.
How many phases are you expecting then? If we're looking at phase, and this is phase one, is near 4 million without any police, which was an identified need, right?
Correct.
So what would be the next steps? Theoretically, we go forward with this, the taxpayers are yes. Then what's phase 2 or 3?
I don't think that there's any more than 2 phases, and it'd be basically building in the envelope in a manner that it could be easily added onto on the,
To
the
add the
right-hand
police
side.
department back into it.
to put the police department back into it.
And I don't see at one point early on in this conversation, there was more conversation about possibly sliding it all the way over one way, possibly a city hall library. I don't foresee that ever coming to tuition, to cram them all up into one corner and have a whole bunch of vacancy. I honestly don't know if city hall would ever be out there, per se.
The budgetary numbers that we got back from, in the very beginning, in the ad hoc committee, it was give us a total revamped, redesign, everything under one roof, and then give us a design in which, if we wanted to, we could add on to the right in a phased approach. The numbers for the hole under the roof did not change from where they were, which already failed in referendum. So that was the net difference.
So we would be still looking at some point theoretically to add the police.
Theoretically.
Right, and so we would have to go through this process,
Or-
potentially in looking at a number that's going to be significantly, I mean, hesitate hyperbole, potentially higher than the totality of what we would have expended
Could,
the last referendum.
it could.
Do we have a loose inkling, like when we're having this conversation ad hoc, obviously it's not contingent on that. Is there a feeling for how we want it to approach that second step? Or do we have a taste for where we're gonna go?
So the feeling, taste, or reality of it, Casey, is I think that whether it be in the other possibilities would need to be explored that are more affordable, whether it be in the current footprint or near or adjacent footprint in which the police department, city hall already reside.
Is there, and I'm just, I just off the, was it discussed that if this does go through, that as a stopgap, we could use the old fire department as a police department. It has internal, it sounds like we're having
Yeah.
the boiler chimney repaired. It sounds like there's the possibility that we could be, even with some modest remodeling, may be able to put a holding cell in temporarily, or, and still have something that we can get the cars out of the weather into an arena where they have a department as opposed to the basement.
Yes,
I'm just kinda wondering, was that discussed?
oh yeah, yeah, it was discussed, but correct me if I'm wrong, and chief, you guys would, ADA compliance and the remodeling, the number that, we can't just move into the facility because we already own it. I think once you change the department or the focus of that envelope, that opens up the book of worms of ADA compliance and everything else, right?
I think the approach that we have to take is, if we're gonna move forward with the fire department, then we concentrate on the fire department. We still have a big picture to look at: city hall, library, police department, and what we're gonna do with the future of this building, the future of the library, and also the police department. Instead of just saying, we're gonna go build a fire department, we're gonna take the old fire department and make a police department, and we're piecemealing this all together. I think we have to look at the bigger picture of what direction are we gonna go with all the other facilities as well.
Well, based on the evolution so far, that's a 30-year proposition down the road. So, we've got a facility there.
But what I'm saying,
And
Alderman,
it could all be done on one floor. There is no reason in the world why that footprint, that's probably larger than what we were talking about on one floor than what the police department addition would have been in the new facility. And that could be remodeled on one floor. And that whole building is ADA compliant because there isn't a step in the place. And I'm just thinking that on a short term, sure, we gotta remodel a bathroom. Sure, we've gotta throw in some cubicles and all of that sort of stuff, but it eliminates our ADA problem that we've got currently right now, and it gets the equipment out of the weather. It's something that we ought to seriously consider. There isn't a rule that says you gotta use the upper floors on that building.
Well, that's a good point, Jake. Gus, were you gonna say something before?
Well, just some of the things that I'm gonna, just to give a little bit of the background, when we had gone through this with Performa, was that we had talked about some of the things about, keeping us in that building, and we had put together some things that need attention. We haven't had any windows replaced in that building in probably 45 years. So you're looking at some of those things, Jake. We're gonna be somewhere down the line, we're gonna be needing in the very near future a new roof. And we had put all this together, at one point, along with the guidance of Performa, a new heating system was also gonna be needed. And I think just the cost of not changing anything structurally with our building, they were talking in the neighborhood of $4 million for that versus because, they kind of gave you the ratio of if it's anything over, half the cost of the existing building, and Matt can probably help us, if I'm not in the right ballpark here, because he helped a lot with this too. If it's anything over half the cost of what a replacement building would be, it's your efforts are, I don't mean to say fruitless, but they're not in the best interest going forward. It is what their comments were at the time. Like I said, I'm just giving you some of the feedback and the information that was provided early on.
I'm just worried about there's a dearth of abandoned buildings in Algoma. Not necessarily I'm not necessarily.
And it's definitely worth looking into.
Talking about a building that's suitable for the police department. But we've got empty storefronts on 4th Street. we've got empty storefronts on Steel, we've got that Netto Palazzo or whatever the hell it is, a structure that nobody's been able to attract a buyer and/or a developer to come in and do anything with. Now we're gonna have a 15,000 square foot or thereabouts facility that's going to be empty, that has problems. Who's gonna come in and do that?
And I'm not,
And I'm just saying that we should be utilizing this stuff just so that because if you drop the maintenance, if you move out of there and drop the maintenance, then you are screwed.
I don't disagree with you, and I don't think anybody here would. I mean, it's a great idea as far as moving them down there or pre-selling it to a private owner, whatever it may be. But, you know, keeping it separated, two separate situations or two separate topics, right?
Yeah,
We're
okay.
talking about the reason, you know, from the ad hoc committee, it was a recommendation that after dealing with Bayland, we definitely want to build something if and when we do, because the needs are there, build something that we can in the future add on to if and when needed. That was the whole point of it, is
Understood.
to build the box so we can keep going if and when needed. So starting with the fire department, that is what we came to the conclusion at. That's the 3.7 and change. Getting into the topographies and some of the DNR and some of the other things that need to be done, needs to be done regardless.
Can I ask a question? When you're saying it needs to be done regardless, is that because you're planning something else possibly there too? And if it were to go through, or, you know, why does the 40,000 need to be spent immediately on that if this is all in regards to the fire department? This isn't in regards to if it weren't to pass, and you're still saying maybe in order for us to even say something happens and we decided wherever, we might move the fire department building someplace else, or just anything weird
yep,
might
yep.
happen, but
So-
we would still need to have those topography things done in order to even sell that lot, regardless of who it's to?
It goes with the lot. So to your worst case scenario, this doesn't happen. We pull the plug and say we want to sell this. That goes along with it.
Okay, that's what I was.
But it's only good for 3 years.
Correct.
Boy, that's a dice roll, Scott. That's I don't even wanna say that's a coin toss. I don't even think that's a 50-50. I'm just thinking out loud. We've got the county stepping up to the plate, in terms of money spent on the jail. Now, they're not gonna do it, they didn't do it as a referendum, but you sure as God made little green apples, we're gonna see a tax increase there. We've just gone through a reevaluation, we've got some tax increases coming there, based on the determined mill rate and all that other sort of stuff. And now we're gonna present an additional tax hit that would be April, is that right?
As soon as you could do it would be
The
April.
referendum.
Oh, no, because it was November last year,
No, it was April.
April of last year. All right, so the earliest we could do is gonna be April of next year.
Correct.
And if it gets turned down, you're already 2 years out. I don't know, I just,
From the feedback that we got and that dollar amount and looking at the financials and what the impact or the burden would be, I believe it will pass. I can't believe it won't. We don't have
Okay.
an option. The need is there.
well,
Going back to the last referendum, it was 6 million. If we do not do this and we don't invest the money to put the study forth right away and wait until after all of the designing, engineering, and studies that need to be had in order to get an actual bid back for construction.
But did we do that for the last one? Did we do a topographical?
I don't know, I wasn't,
No, we have not yet. So now, with what Scott is saying is moving this to the next step, right? We can put this all back on the back burner and just go out to referendum this April, right? It's gonna cost us $500 to have another referendum. Once this referendum would pass, then you could, whatever happens with the referendum, you could move to this next phase. It just prolongs everything out approximately another year.
Okay.
Question.
Go ahead, John.
Amber, what is the financing mechanism that would have the least impact on taxes in this scenario?
There's really only one option to use.
To have the least impact on taxes
Right.
would be to shift the fire hydrant rental from the tax levy to a direct charge on utility bills. Then you're freeing up roughly $400,000 a year. And then you could utilize that for your debt payments.
It would also impact, I mean, that would be everybody then, would be accounting for that, right? Every facility that exists, regardless of their status.
It's something that we should be looking at doing regardless of this project. Because right now, the fire hydrant rental fee is paid through the taxes, and the schools, the churches, some of the biggest.
The nonprofits.
in the state and the city are not paying for that hydrant rental fee.
Things that
because they don't
require
pay tax.
some of
I,
them are
I
the most.
wanted to bring light to that, and Amber is 100% correct to what she's saying. So everybody understands is it's it does not affect your taxes and frees up $400,000. It also puts a fee on your utility bill to make up that difference.
And what would that fee bill be?
It's really hard to say.
The utilities would have to have.
Correct.
Well,
But
I
it's,
mean,
so
we've
you're
got
not gonna get it
16 or
on your tax bill, you're gonna
1700.
get it on your utility bill. So that $400,000 right now is part of the city taxes. Obviously, the tax exempts don't pay for it, the nonprofits, the churches, the schools, but everybody then would pay it as part of their utility bill. It would not come off your taxes.
I mean, in the
So-
end, we're all gonna collectively be paying for this in some manner. But if in fact that's the one that is less or least injurious to collectively, right, like that may have the most equitable effect, which you're saying that would be the best process. I think it's worth looking into it.
When-
Not to say we don't, what's that?
when do we need to make a final decision on whether or not we're going to referendum or funding it else?
January.
January, okay. So we have a couple months to have more discussion on that. This is just to get the ball rolling. That gives us a stamp to move forward either way. And it stamps that property for 3 years.
So the 40,000 is just that corner section, they're gonna survey and do a plot plan and do wetland studies like they did with the whole park at the time, right?
That is correct.
Cause we had that done years ago for the whole business
That is
parks
correct,
and
that they would
stuff.
do a topographical.
Of just that one corner.
That is correct.
And it's a
It's a
ballpark
very
number too.
broad number. I feel like I can get that number down quite a bit, talking with our engineering firm. Obviously, talking with Bayland, that's a, shot in the dark number.
And we're not even voting on a yes or no spend the money. We're voting on a, hey, we want you to work with the engineer to get us a number to vote on,
Correct.
just to be clear. So that's all this, that's the juncture we're at right now. Is do we want him to get that number from engineering so we can say yay or nay?
Well, there is never anything wrong with talking to anybody about
Yeah.
anything. It's where the rubber hits the road
Correct.
is where we've got to
And
make
this is,
that
I mean,
decision.
great conversation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff discussed and that, I mean, whether it's tonight or next meeting, that would have been discussed anyways, but right now, literally, the decision that we need to make is, this is where we're at, this is what we found out. The next step is to get some numbers to see if to what that looks like so we can vote yes or no.
So would you like a motion on that?
Yes.
Okay,
Please.
would somebody make the motion to
I
go
think
ahead?
I can make that motion,
Okay.
that's just a matter of,
Is there a
of opening a
second?
conversation.
Second.
Okay, do you want a roll call? No,
So
okay, all in
motion
favor
is
say
made.
aye.
Motion made by Jake, seconded by
Jake's
Kevin.
Kevin.
To work with the engineering firm to get a cost for the study?
That is correct.
Correct,
Is that correct?
Correct.
correct.
So we have a motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Okay, then the student resource officer. Okay.
I handed out, 1 second here, Randy. So everybody, as part of their packet, has a contract. More or less the same contract, there's some markups on it. If you printed it out, you will not have the markups. If you're looking at it on your iPads or your laptops, you'll see the yellow markups on it. The only thing that did not transfer over into the contract, because it is the original, is Exhibit A, which is the pricing. The 2 handouts I handed out is the new Exhibit A and the email that more or less says that is part of Exhibit A, that they adopted it. They didn't adopt it. Their safety committee is ready to move this back to the council, to the school board. I apologize.
All right, so page 11, X that out, is that correct?
Yes, page 11 of what you have, X that out and use the Exhibit A that I handed everybody at the meeting.
So very high level, they made a couple verbiage changes on the contract. There's the new numbers are, that we discussed as far as the wages are on here, they're dropping it down from 40 to 24 hours.
That is
I mean,
correct.
in a nutshell, right?
In a nutshell, the couple of markups from 40 hours down to 24 hours. And that 24 hours is not, that's 3 days is what they're looking for, not just a random 24 hours,
Okay.
5 here, 12 here.
3 days?
3 days is what they're looking for, just to bring clarity to that.
Was the old one for 2 years or 3 years?
2 years.
Okay, so they were.
The original was 3 years, and then when we started the conversation back up again 2 months ago, then it was 2 years.
But then I would point at page 4, item 6 is a home run in my book, if you want to take a few minutes to read that.
Well, that, may be terminated by either party in 60 days, but it will automatically renew at the end of each 2-year period.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
all is good, it's
And-
just gonna keep going.
And it even allows for a revised Exhibit A without any other changes in the contract. We can add a new Exhibit A after two years if costs rise.
Yeah, so
Yes.
if you see the handout I handed you, you have a new Exhibit A that takes care of 2022's pricing, 2023's pricing. We obviously, beyond that, don't know after contractual, the union contract, where 24 or 25 would go.
Correct.
That obviously depends on their contract.
Okay. And if the 24 hours, I mean, in conversations that you guys had with the superintendent, it can be up or down, or I mean, if we choose next year at some point, hey, maybe we want to add 4th day, I mean, that falls into the, we can revise Exhibit A, correct? I'm reading, okay, all right.
Now, what you would have though, if you would start to add days, then we would have to review the contract, because I think now we would not be doing anything to their union contract, correct?
Currently, with this one, no, we're not. If we start to commence right, if we actually up it more days, then we would have to just get an MOU with the contract.
Contract.
Yes,
So now they're working 6-3, but 3 of his days will be in the school.
yes, so
Just work around.
that SRO, 6 and 3 is 6 days on. 3 days would be working the streets, 3 days would be in the school.
Or 1 week it might be 2 days, the following week it might be 4 to get that schedule.
To average out 24 hours.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds good.
So, on the schedule, did you bring the schedule of, a current schedule like Lee had asked, as far as, because all this really should be contingent on whether or not we all feel we need another police officer or not, cause that was something that they were still looking at. I know Lee was talking about it last time or whatever, and had asked you to bring a current schedule, was that what? No.
No, I apologize, I guess I didn't understand, I did not bring a current schedule. So, where we got into this issue to begin with was a year ago when we started talking about banning for the police department. Currently takes in a perfect, perfect day and age, no one takes vacation, no one takes military, no one takes training, no one calls in sick. It takes roughly 4.5 people to cover the schedule. In reality, we're looking at 203 shifts that are not filled every year. All that stuff thrown in. And that's where, in the past, that was fine, because we had part-time personnel that we used to cover that. Same thing the sheriff's department did when they ran the police department in the city. Around the sheriff's department, it started before we went our separate ways, once the whole change in generations and trying to find part-timers, and just like everybody's having a hard time finding part-time personnel. That's why the sheriff's department, when they ran things, they were way over budget. They were just using overtime to cover their shifts. The problem we have is we can't find part-time people, and I'm sorry, it's kind of a long explanation, this is the backstory. So going forward to cover those, 203, it's actually more like 290 shifts per year, the chief covers down on it and he's part-time. I can't find part-time people. They come and go, they're hard to find. So the intent was that we filled the police department what it used to be up until 2013 with the 6th officer, and then that frees your chief up to actually go after the overtime. That overtime is expensive. I mean, even if we just, for example, 203 shifts, that equals out to roughly $76,000 and a half in overtime a year. That's almost a full-time officer right there. So this is a way of getting after that nut, is how do we kill this overtime?
Also, I think it's worth mentioning, it's important that we're discussing the SRO contract, not necessarily hiring somebody. Yes, they are related, but we're not voting on hiring anybody right now. This is strictly for this.
So you're taking one of the officers currently, putting them on 3 days a week, so then wouldn't there even be more overtime, or how are you, if you're saying is it in the best benefit, if we are having a hard time hiring somebody, is it in the best benefit to take one of our officers and put them at the school for 3 days a week when we're having problems filling shifts already? So I would like to see, why the overtime and why there's, I'd like to at least see a schedule of what things look like so that we
Well,
can determine, I guess
If I might, I think, yes, taking a look at the schedule is important, Midge. However, our contract isn't up until when? May?
At 2023.
May of 2023.
Yes, I think it is spring of 23.
Yeah. There ain't a damn thing we can do with the schedule. Nothing. That's in the contract. So we've got plenty of time to look at how we're scheduling our officers. So we could be talking about this for a very long time, and I
understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, we have made a point that if we have somebody up at the school, and then Randy has to do something during his shift, and then you've got another person on the day shift, you're talking, how do you, you're looking at justifying 3 people on a day shift in this town, and so how do you justify that? So that's why I said, I just wanna make sure that the numbers actually justify hiring another full-time person. If we're already so, losing so many shifts, and he's saying we have so much overtime already, then it's hard for us to give another officer to the school when technically we're saying we need them here so that we're not getting all of that overtime. Or, I hope I'm making sense, but I'm just, I'm looking at, I wanna see the big picture overall before we vote on actually a school officer who we may need covering the shift for the town.
Sure, and that's a great point. I guess the best way to say it's the reason we talked, first of all, I was directed to see research a school resource officer. Is that the city council, that was important. why these are two are related, because the SRO helps fund that sixth officer. So we actually get revenue into the city, so it offsets that cost of that regardless, we kind of need to have that person on the schedule.
But we'd still be
if
paying
I-
for them half of the time anyway, because they're only working if you're saying full-time, they're only paying for 24 hours, the city still has to come up with,
The other
the-
time, which would then be working on the shift schedule.
Right,
shift,
right.
Including summertime too, which is their busy time. If you want, I can set up a meeting with you, I can literally go through the notes to you step by step and show it to you. I hate showing schedules because that's like a perfect snapshot world with nothing going on. When you start talking, you're talking vacation 75 shifts. You're talking holidays 50 shifts. You're talking state mandatory training time 15 shifts. You're talking military 30 shifts. That's not reflected when you're showing schedule. And that's where I think people maybe get a bad idea or baseline thing, oh, perfect schedule, it works out perfect, it works here. Like, well, when you throw that other stuff in there, it blows it all up. So, I mean, I guess if you sit down and actually go through, you and actually say, all right, here's perfect shift, this will overtake, now we have to look at those other things. We
well,
have
I
to
know,
look at
I
retention.
think,
We have to
I
look
think
at
the whole council should actually see that, because I know Lee had asked for it in particular, I know he's not here tonight, but, just so that we have some kind of an idea of how it's actually working, as far as, and again, with them going 3 days, that's almost helpful, because isn't it 6 days on, 3 days off, so it might be, that at least is helpful as far as the contract with the school is concerned, but, my concern is if we're giving up an officer who we need already for the city, and whether we do or don't have the funds to hire another full-time person, I wanna make sure the city's covered first before we send somebody into the schools. That's really what I'm trying to drive at here, I guess.
Mitch, the question I have is, according to union contract, they have to bid for shifts from November 1st to November 15th. So we as management could instruct Randy to come up with a new schedule that uses 6 on, 3 off, that maybe makes their sergeant work 3 second shifts, 3 day shifts instead of all 6 day shifts. We could do that to help move, so if all the people don't want all these day shift people, if you don't want 2 people on days, the sergeant and the chief, if you want him on a second shift 3 days a week, and then Brad could be in this, that we could do as management, cause they did it with our department, that was something we could do. And we were under union contract, and as long as you stay on your 6-3 schedule, but we can come up with who works what shift. You could have a second shift, day shift spot, you could have all second shift. Randy can come up with that.
And that
To
is-
eliminate 3 guys on days, 2 on patrol and then 1 in the school. But it's kinda late now, November 1st is coming up, so that'll be pretty quick.
Well, what do you need? Do you need a motion on this thing? Or approval to send to council? What are we talking, or are we just in general discussion?
This would be adopting.
This is a contract.
This is the contract, so
If we,
we took a crack at it, we sent it over to the school, they made the advisories, they agreed with the dollar amount, they sent it back here for more or less adoption, or move to dismiss.
Well, I'm thinking that there are more than enough benefits in terms of, at 24 hours, that's going to eliminate a considerable amount of overtime in terms of dollars, and puts us well on the road to hiring a 6th officer. And I think we do need one. I think I would have to agree with Kevin that the department head needs to step up to the plate and say, well, guess what? You're not gonna be able to pick all days, or you're not gonna be able, we're gonna be juggling that ball a little bit within the confines of the contract and do it properly. If that's the case, and we can do that, we may get some kicking and screaming out of our frontline officers. But I would say that, given the incidental changes in this contract, I would move that we accept this contract with some incidental changes that you've highlighted, and we can go around and around with this problem forever. And I think we need to just kind of move along here.
I second. Oh, go ahead, you can second.
You can take it, Ken.
I second.
and just one point, as far as the schedule itself, Kevin's right, it's set by management, so if that's your direction, we can easily do that. They don't get to vote as far as what the schedule is, they get to pick what schedule they take, but I create the schedule, so if we wanna make, two guys or it's first and seconds, then, Brad does this row things, next person's a third graveyard, and then the last person's fifth and second, we can do that, that's our right. They don't really have to vote.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
So there's a motion
There's a
to
motion and a second.
adopt the contract as is
Yeah,
With their
with the changes,
There are incidental
the
changes.
new Exhibit A,
yeah.
and to not I'm just asking this question, to not have 3 officers on third shift, to ask to move the contract, cause I don't know if Randy can do that.
Oh, I didn't think we were doing that, I thought we were.
No.
Just the
This,
SRO.
that's gotta be
Yeah.
Okay.
taken off
Yeah.
separately.
Okay,
Okay, so,
It had nothing to do with the contract.
Okay,
I'm
so-
just-
that's why I'm asking for
I'm just
clarity.
saying, my aside, and I'm sorry, Casey, but my aside was, if Randy can indeed do that,
It's on you to figure it out.
then we let
scheduling.
Randy figure it out.
okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second, but then,
Okay, so, just cause we got a lot of moving parts,
Okay.
try this one more time.
All right.
We have a motion made by Alderman Mehring, seconded by Alderman Schmidt, to accept the SRO contract with the incidentals and recommend this to council. This also includes the new Exhibit A.
Correct.
So this will then now be in front of you at council as well. Right?
okay,
That's
okay.
what I understood.
Then we would
Correct.
want to do a roll call on this one.
Okay. Havoc,
Did you say Pavic or Kevin?
No, you said
Havoc.
Pavic.
Pavic, Kevin,
Yeah,
that
we're
sound
staring at
close.
it. It's like-
Fleur,
Yes.
Mehring,
Yes.
You're Pavic.
Swedberg,
Yes.
Meverden,
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Then moving on to expanding city limits.
That is something that we have, is staying on here, we're still working on it. I am working with a party that owns some property on the west end of town and having conversations, but it's not far enough along here to have the conversation, but it will stay on here, to keep you updated as this moves forward.
Okay, well then the next item is the purchase of the Kawasaki Hustler.
Kawasaki makes us.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, so this is a lawnmower that, obviously, there's a price point in here. This is an updated price. I think, Casey, it went up by about $1,000 from October to, November. This was budgeted into the capital outlay for a replacement. For the cemetery, it's actually not gonna be going to the cemetery, it's actually gonna be going to the Parks Department where the replacement will be coming from. So that's what you have before you here today. If anybody has any questions.
I'm curious, Matt. I thought we had a $20,000, doesn't need to go through all of this stuff, approval process.
Not that-
for this
No.
kind of stuff.
No?
Not, yeah, I don't think, because this is a capital outlay purchase,
Is
so,
this-
This was actually budgeted for 15,000.
yeah,
The
it,
price has gone up.
correct.
All right, all right.
Is this replacing a unit that's no longer operable, or do we have one that works?
It's operable, but,
Barely.
well, right now it's not, it's too cold, it doesn't start. We gotta put it in a heated building, but it leaks a bunch of oil, the drives are kinda getting tired,
Then you're gonna sell this old one?
this one would be sold, yeah.
So moved. Second.
What do you get for the old one?
Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna do a roll call.
Motion by Kevin.
I have a motion by Kevin, a second by Casey to recommend to council the approving of the Kawasaki Hustler hyperdrive.
So a roll call.
I don't, if you want.
Yeah, spending money, you should have a
It's
roll call.
spending money, yeah.
Alright, Mehring,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Meverden,
Yes.
Swedberg,
Yes.
Fleur,
Yes.
Havoc.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, Fourth Street Bridge crosswalk and signage.
Scott, do you wanna take this one, or do you want me to?
I'm actually trying to remember what the recommendation was. On it. That was so long ago.
I'm gonna stand over here just because it's gonna be easier instead of everybody trying to explain it. This is 4th Street, you'd be traveling north, just on the north side of the 4th Street Bridge, continuing down Highway 42, okay? This was, I think, 3 months in a row on the PPP conversation of what we can do. We're having a problem with speeders coming into town through here. And when you come around this corner, you have this crosswalk that you can see right here. By the time you come around the corner, if there's a younger kid or an elderly person or somebody, ADA, crossing this crosswalk, traveling from east to west or west to east, about eliminating this crosswalk, to make it safer, or put some signage up here. What can we do to try to mitigate this issue? There's a lady that lives up here, I think is where the original conversation started. Doesn't really matter, but up in this neck of the woods, lady that walks a lot, has some concerns about it, okay? Well, we looked at with the DOT putting rumble strips out here to get people to slow down. We put our traffic control sign out here, trying to get people to slow down. I think it was at PPP that it was asked to put speed limit signs up, or slow down blind crosswalk, okay? We have a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, we have 2 45s, we have a 35, and we have a 25. If 6 speed limit signs doesn't slow them down, I don't think 7, 8, and 9 are gonna help either. I don't know, Randy, if you have had any traffic issues besides, I mean, I would back up, so I'm getting ahead of myself. The rumble strips, the DOT
You said no.
really just, they sent me a 4-page no. One thing is, obviously, the rumble strips might get people to slow down. They're really misleading, because if you're coming around this corner here, you don't have a stop sign. So they're misleading rumble strips to a possible stop. The other thing is his big thing with the DOT is all of these houses are probably gonna call City Hall religiously. If you ever drive over a rumble strip, what that sounds like in your vehicle, if you can imagine what that would probably sound like in all these residents. The vibration of the every time you go over.
Can you change the right turn, no stop to make it a stop sign?
Can you put a stop sign there?
No,
There's already a stop sign there.
It's a right turn, no stop.
right turn,
yeah.
no stop.
You
There is a
can't-
stop sign here, but it is a right turn, no stop.
You can't change it to a stop sign?
We could ask the DOT that,
That'd be
but it is
easy.
a state highway, so that would be up to the DOT. We don't theoretically have say over
No,
it.
we don't.
We have to deal with these problems, they won't
Yeah.
deal with those. But in order to say, okay, we're gonna get rid of the right turn, no stop, and just put up a stop sign, that's not our decision to make.
Well-
We can say the council unanimously adopted this, and that's our ask, might help, but,
Well, that'd make the most sense.
and I've been here now, I think this is the 3rd time I've had this conversation. I think this is a conversation about every 4 or 5 years, from what I hear comes up, that there's problems. Right turn, no stop, put a stop sign up. You know, different scenarios. I don't know what is a good suggestion, but to eliminate this crosswalk and just make this crosswalk here, okay?
It goes to the sidewalk issue. You put a ADA turnout on, put an ADA there, and you put a crosswalk there to there, and from the peninsula across the street. And you put and you make it a
Yeah,
four.
we have to put all sidewalk.
And- yeah, but you
Currently,
got-
there's
but
no
you-
sidewalk here.
Yeah, I'm saying it's a sidewalk issue, but you've got a sidewalk that just simply ends at the crosswalk there.
Sidewalk here, but
You,
doesn't
and
go
then,
out.
and then, south, you've got a sidewalk that ends again down on the, yeah, and it ends there,
Yep, doesn't go here.
doesn't go there. Why not? Why couldn't you do that? Why couldn't you just put in ADA turnouts there, so somebody can cross all 4 dimensions?
'Cause then you'd have to put sidewalks.
No, you've got sidewalks that you've got sidewalks that simply end in a couple of different directions.
And forgive me, Matt, but I just from To dial it back here a moment, I mean, we talked about this several times at the PPP,
3
and
months in a row.
we talked about taking that out, we talked about leaving it. If I remember correctly, taking that out or letting it fade basically is not necessarily addressing anything, it's washing the city's hands of any liability, so if somebody does get hit, hey, we didn't have a crosswalk there. I thought that the last conversation that we had was just to look into putting up, adding a couple of signs to existing telephone poles right before that coming into town. Yeah, somewhere in there.
I know there was talk about putting up mirrors.
And no, not mirrors. Just a
I'm not.
crosswalk ahead, and then more policing. Having Randy's guys patrol. I mean, more patrol. I don't.
No, we talked about the simplest being the crosswalk ahead.
Crosswalk ahead
Signage.
sign.
So to let the folks know that they're coming to a blind crosswalk, that they may not be aware of.
And that was like,
Crosswalk ahead sign here and more patrol, I think.
yeah, it was like 100. It was minimal
Don't eliminate
cost.
this, don't eliminate this, keep that as is, and we're gonna put a sign here.
Per the minutes, the DOT suggestion was to promote traffic control in that area. Pavic moved, seconded by Weiss, to recommend to the Finance and Personnel Committee to explore costs of additional signage and the cost of eliminating the crosswalk. And so if, you know, like.
Is
like
there
you
a
said,
cost?
Shifting the liability isn't addressing the issue, so that is potentially problematic, but patrol and signage as far as, it, you know.
What do we got to
effort
do to take that out?
To take this out?
Yeah. Concrete work?
Sandblasted?
No. I look into it.
Okay.
The putting the sign up is $200.
Okay. I,
Getting rid of this crosswalk, to be honest, let it fade.
I thought it was putting a crosswalk sign up, so we're doing our due diligence and then more patrol. That was my recollection.
I'm just going from the minutes, but I think that, I mean, that's the
Couple hundred.
exploration of the totality of cost and what would be the most tenable option out of those was it.
It's a couple $100 to
And
put a sign on an existing pole, and we can do that, right?
We'd have to put a pole up. I can't put a sign on the utilities power line here. We'd have to put a pole in with another sign, just $200.
Just a point out, you know, like Matt's saying, if you would actually eliminate this crosswalk here from a liability aspect, that is no longer a place you can walk across or jaywalk. So liability, say, if the bad were to happen, and from the city perspective, well, you were illegally crossing the street in the traffic lanes. Putting stuff up here, we still have that issue, are we properly enforcing it, are we properly monitoring it, are we properly making it visible to people coming into town? So that we just making it easy for our liability sake, easiest thing to do would be to eliminate that crosswalk.
Traffic
In-
lights.
Instead of advertising a crosswalk, could you put a sign up that says pedestrian traffic, foot traffic? I don't know. I guess, what are you looking for?
Conversation we had for 3 months at the.
Yeah, exactly.
Problem with putting a sign up that says something like that.
Nobody reads the signs.
One, nobody reads the sign. Two, it opens up, everybody in the neighborhood is gonna want a sign that says that. Well, what about where my kid plays? Put that sign up over here, or you should have one like that over here. Start to go down a bad venture.
So if, is there,
We have the movable pedestrian signs we have now. I don't know how many we have now, we have a handful, but every year we get inundated with requests all over cities saying, well, I saw one on 4th Street and that by my house.
well, and two, I mean, Casey, you just read the meeting minutes. It was look into the cost of removing it, look into the cost of signage. Signage is $200 and nobody's gonna listen. Removing it is gonna cost again, what?
$500 to $800.
And nobody's gonna, nobody's gonna listen.
If you remove it, are you, I don't wanna say fixing the curb, but are you fixing the curb so you can't cross there? Is that included with the removal?
I would just remove these white lines is what we would do.
Oh.
So do we
Make
have
this white
ADA?
line come straight across, and we would remove these 2 white lines.
So we
There's
would
a
still have
ADA
ramps
ramp
there.
here, there's an ADA ramp here, that ramp would stay here. This one eventually, when we're going through here, and if need be, we would pull that curb out at that time and remove an ADA
That's not gonna
approach.
get removed anytime soon.
No,
So yeah, so you're still, you can remove those white lines and you can take the money to spend it, but if you still have a curb there, that's gonna drop off. with
People are
those-
gonna-
the ramp,
People are gonna
still
use it.
People are gonna use it.
And they're gonna say, well, you didn't keep up your side, you didn't keep up your, crosswalk. You have a ramp, but you don't have a crosswalk, so here's your next can of worms.
If you were to put up a sign, how far back would you go? Just because my thought is, there's a lot of driveways there that may not be in consideration, and you can't go so close to that stop sign, you're blocking the stop sign. I think that's a lot of concrete there, isn't it?
I'd ask them about
Or-
taking
or-
away the right turn, no
or
stop.
there's this crossroad right here, we park a squad car here, we pull some people over, and we tell them to slow down, okay? This is 4 months we've been dealing with this. It's as simple as making some traffic stops and getting people to slow down. That's what we need to do.
Until they get used to
We're revolving this circle
Yeah.
of putting up signs and painting colors and replacing curb. How about if we just get people to slow down?
Yeah,
Sure.
okay.
It's simple and easy until it then is ineffective too. I
Let's
mean,
try
like,
the simplest thing first.
we could take every sign in the city down and you'd have problems. You could put up a million signs. Like, there's every situation that has a million things that we could or couldn't do that would result in things that would or wouldn't work. This one keeps popping up. Is that the best solution though? Is enforcement going to be, you said it's the easiest one. How do we measure then its effectiveness? You know, do we focus on it for
We put
6
a little
months?
Police presence out there,
Yeah.
and let's, I mean, we're coming into our slow time of the year, right? We can't measure this between now and spring, we have to measure this between now and, July.
Has to be the summer.
That's where the people are walking more, right? So let's give it a chance, we make a couple of traffic stops, we try to get people to slow down. Everybody wants the cop to sit in their front yard and watch for speeders. We obviously don't have 40 cops on duty, so we, put them out there, have a patrol out there once in a while. We be visible out there, keeps the neighbors happy, they see, oh, look, police car is out here, good. And we make a couple traffic stops. Randy relays this to the county, maybe the county has, on their shift, they can park somebody out in that neck of the woods once in a while too, right?
How many incidents have we actually had at that
Zero.
intersection?
Zero, and we have enforced it, in fact, for almost, I think almost over a month or maybe 2 months, we had a speed trap.
People have been fast to jump back, though.
Well,
That's been observed.
How close have we become or come to an incident, and that's the consideration, right? We don't do everything just because, as a reaction, correct? Like, we should have some foresight. I mean, I to your point, I think it's an appropriate approach, and I think the timing is fine, and I think, Jake, what you're saying is that, why would we mull so much over almost nothing, but it's the potentiality that we're looking at. And so, I mean, I guess disproportionate time spent,
well,
maybe.
yeah, I would have to agree. There's been a disproportionate amount of time spent on a zero incident.
Casey, you bring up a really good point as far as the signage being too close to the stop sign. Can you look at that to see if we were to put up a $200 sign, where could it go? Up until that answer, I don't know. Pull some more people over.
Or we still ask the,
Can't we ask the DOT for a stop sign? Instead of the
or
right
to
turn, no
remove
stop?
the, right turn, no stop.
Yeah, make it a stop sign. That to me would be the easiest.
Yeah, and that should slow
I
people
can
down.
put that request there, okay?
And they might tell us how it's.
Well, but you're,
Every easy option.
well, but then again, there's gotta be some give and take with them, because there sure as God made little green apples, we're not the only city on the planet that has a highway running through it. And, a 2-lane highway, that, there's gotta be some consideration. No, we're gonna have an express lane through the middle of Algoma, period. Well, we ought to be able to put up a stop sign, I would think, or a no right turn, just something to control traffic, but I don't know. I'm not the DOT.
I think what Master is trying to say is it's not our decision, we can request it, and then we just gotta wait to see what the county says. So they say, DOT, they may say yes, they may say no, they may say great, I don't know.
I mean, there's nothing to pay for, it's remove a placard underneath the stop
Right,
sign.
I mean, if,
Right, that's what I mean.
There's no expense to it, and then education.
Education, kind of, how about there to enforce it?
Well,
Cause I'll tell you, you're gonna spend 6 months out there with people not stopping, coming into town.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like we changed the one year
Oh,
down.
revenue.
Yeah. And if that's the direction, we can definitely shoot something out to the DOT.
If the worst thing they can say is no, then we should ask the
But
question.
I'm looking at keep it simple, you
Yeah,
know, that's
I
the
mean,
simplest.
they're gonna say, yeah, not a problem, or they're gonna say no.
Right.
That's the worst they can do, fire off the letter.
If they say no, then we can take crosswalks out, do our option two.
Okay, so is that a,
Do I need a motion for that?
You're just giving him direction.
Direction,
Yeah.
I don't need anything.
No motions or anything, okay. Okay, and then our next meeting is gonna be Tuesday, November 15th at 4 PM. If anybody has any agenda items, get them to Aaron before the meeting. Nothing else, I'd like a motion to adjourn this meeting.
so move?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Right into another meeting.
Run away, hurry up, run away. No, somebody run away.
Okay, so we're okay to go right into the next meeting right now? Okay, call the meeting to order. Could you do a roll call on the council meeting?
Mary,
Here.
Boer,
Here.
Swedberg,
Here?
Meverden,
Here?
Pavic,
Here.
Schmidt.
Still here.
Okay, and this meeting is in compliance with open meeting law. I'd like an approval of the agenda as submitted.
So move.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved as submitted. First item is a resolution. Aaron?
We have resolution 1144-2022, a resolution authorizing the purchase of a Hustler Hyperdrive lawnmower.
Could I get a motion from somebody for the purchase?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay,
Yes,
Finance.
we should have a roll call for
You wanna
that
do a roll
resolution.
call on that one?
Yes,
Okay.
it should be done by roll call,
Okay.
sorry, thank you,
I
Kevin.
didn't because we did a
I
roll call just a few
apologize.
minutes ago to put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, do a roll call on that.
Pavic,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Swedberg,
Yes.
Boer,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Meverden.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries then, okay. Anything for the agenda for the next meeting, let Aaron know. Our next meeting will be November 7th at 6 PM here at City Hall.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, we are adjourned.
Understand this thing.